The president addressed the UN this morning. See what he had to say about international relations.
And we have the latest space announcement. NASA has solved a mystery about Mars. Thanks for joining us on NTTV News at Noon. I'm Ashley Hargrove.
And I'm Alex Thompson.
A fifth college student has died this weekend after a deadly bus crash in Seattle. The bus crash involved a duck boat, which is a tourist vehicle designed to give tours on water and land. All 5 people who have died were international college students who were on their way to orientation. Dozens more were injured, and witnesses say that the front wheel of the duck boat locked up, and that's when the boat swerved across the lanes of traffic into the bus carrying the college students. The company that owns the duck boat is investigating the situation.
Many world leaders gathered at the United Nations today. Earlier this morning started the UN General Assembly. Some topics of interest for this year's assembly included the refugee crisis in Europe, the issues in Syria, and terror in the Middle East. Among the leaders speaking was President Obama. He had this to say.
By building an international system that imposes a cost on those who choose conflict over cooperation, an order that recognizes the dignity and equal worth of all people. That is the work of 7 decades. That is the ideal that this body, at its best, has pursued.
Other top speakers today included Russian President Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and French President François Hollande. Obama plans to meet with President Putin this afternoon in New York to continue discussions over other world issues.
So Alex, did you do anything outside this weekend to enjoy this nice weather?
Oh yeah, I was at Utopia all weekend, so I got to enjoy the weather in its fullest.
That's awesome. So Jessica, can we expect this nice weather to stick around?
We can expect this cool weather to feel a lot like it did this weekend. Starting to feel a little cooler. It's 88 in Denton right now. Feels more like 91 because we don't have a lot of wind blowing. There's also not a lot of cloud coverage. The humidity, though, is 43%. Still fairly low for North Texas, but you're going to feel some of the moisture in the air. You can expect this temperature to be fairly consistent throughout the week, and later we'll have the current conditions over North Texas as well as our 5-day forecast. For now, Alex and Ashley, back to you.
Thanks, Jessica. Well, the Pope is back in Rome after his widely followed trip to the U.S. Thousands of followers traveled throughout the country to see the pontiff during his trip. The pontiff's presence within the country affected many lives. CNN Chris Welch has more on the Pope's historic visit.
With a final wave, Pope Francis departed the U.S., but not before imparting one final blessing.
I pray that you may all be good and generous stewards of the human and material resource entrusted to you. God bless America.
Earlier in the day, the Holy Father met with 5 victims of sexual abuse. Speaking to a chapel full of bishops after the meeting, he vowed careful oversight to protect children from sexual abuse within the church.
The people who had the responsibility to take care of these tender ones violated that trust.
Continuing his practice of reaching out to those living on the margins of society, the pontiff became the first pope to ever visit an American prison.
This time in your life can only have one purpose: to give you a hand in getting back on the right road, to give you a hand to help you rejoin society.
The pontiff concluded his whirlwind tour with an open-air mass at Benjamin Franklin Parkway. Speaking before nearly 1 million worshipers, Pope Francis focused on the small things.
Like a blessing before we go to bed, or the hug after we return from a hard day's work. Love is shown by little things.
Well, Ben Carson continues to explain comments he made about his religious beliefs. During an interview with NBC over a week ago, he said that he did not believe that a Muslim person could be president. He spent the past week trying to explain his comments during an interview with CNN on Friday. Carson said he was okay with a Muslim being president only if he or she would renounce Islam.
I would have problems with somebody who embraced all the doctrines associated with Islam if they're not willing to reject, Sharia and all the portions of it that are talked about in the Quran. If they're not willing to reject that and subject that to American values and the Constitution, then of course I wouldn't. And I would ask you, would you be willing to do that? Would you be willing to advocate for somebody who would not do that?
Currently, Carson is gaining points in the GOP polls. He is narrowing the gap between him and frontrunner Donald Trump.
If you picked up the new iPhone this weekend, you are not alone. Apple sold 13 million of the new iPhone 6s and 6s Plus in just 3 days. The new phones have new touchscreen features, stronger body, and higher resolution cameras. The company also revealed a new rose gold color. While Apple is used to success, this was still a record-breaking weekend.
Well, some cities are passionate about the environment. See which one banned cars altogether.
And we'll have the latest on a big Martian secret. Stay with us.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
To Maddie, congrats on paying off all those student loans.
Finally, right?
How'd you manage that anyway?
I started tracking my spending, changed a couple of habits.
Wow, I'm kind of living paycheck to paycheck right now. I don't even know how I'm doing it.
Well, have you tried saving a little?
I want to, but where's that money gonna come from? Bill collectors, they're the worst. Am I right?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind.
Not home.
Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Well, here in Denton, we are big on recycling. While we may mean green, one city is doing even more for the environment. Paris, France banned cars from the streets for an entire day. The streets were filled with cyclists and pedestrians, and it might seem like an inconvenience, but many saw the day in a positive light.
The aim of this journey is to have the pleasure to be together in the streets, to discover another view of Paris, and just to see how Paris can be car-free.
The Car-Free Day was an effort to promote the Climate Change Summit in November.
NASA has made a big announcement this morning. The agency tweeted that it was going to announce a major scientific discovery about Mars. It did not say what that announcement was, though many of us were hoping that they discovered Martians. That is not the case, though. NASA said that it has found water on Mars. The water on the planet is both liquid and frozen. This helps support a theory that life may have once lived on Mars. If you looked in the sky last night, you may have saw another mystery of space. For the first time since 1982, the super blood moon made its appearance and made its peak at about 10 o'clock. You are now looking at the rare blood moon, which only happens when a full moon is at the closest part of its orbit. This causes the moon to look up to 14% larger. Being named the super moon, then add in the lunar eclipse when the moon falls behind the Earth's shadow, and you've got the phenomenon of a super blood moon. If you missed it last night, be sure to mark the next one on your calendars. That won't happen until 2033, though.
I don't know about you, Alex, but I loved watching the super blood moon last night because it was so nice outside. Yeah. Did you watch it?
Oh yeah, I was having a drink last night and I was watching it under the stars. It looked great.
Well, that's awesome. Let's go to our weather correspondent, Jessica, to tell us a little bit more about what's going to happen in the weather this week.
Okay guys, it's been fall officially for just under a week now. It's not really starting to feel like fall just yet, but today is a little bit cooler, kind of like the weekend was. Up in Wichita Falls, it's 82, a little bit cooler, 80 in Decatur, and Weatherford, 89. Now there's lots of sun across North Texas, a little bit of cloud coverage in Sherman, 81. and McKinney, it's 89 with more clouds and actually 55% chance of rain in Dallas and in Rockwall. You won't see that for long though. The rest of this week is going to stay fairly warm, high of 92. Cooler mornings. You're going to have a low of 65 this week. So if you want to enjoy a pumpkin spice latte now that it's kind of fall, you're going to want to do it in the mornings. But for the afternoons, enjoy what's left of this warm weather. We've only got a couple weeks left. And do what you can in the afternoons. For now, and Alex and Ashley, back to you.
Freedom of speech or pride gone too far? The Confederate flag is causing a lot of debate in a public Pennsylvania high school who has banned the flag due to its disruption to other students. Many teenagers are rebelling from this rule and wearing it now more than ever. KDKA's John Delano has more.
When Zachary Claus showed up to school, his favorite jacket with lots of emblems caused a stir with North Allegheny high school officials.
They said I couldn't have the rebel flag because it offended someone.
The school made him cover up the Confederate flag, but ACLU's Vic Walczek says Zach's free speech rights were violated.
Offensiveness cannot be the touchstone of censorship. Just because somebody may be offended does not give government officials the right to censor that.
Then Dakota Brady wore a rebel skull cap to school.
First thing I see, assistant principal saying, "Take your hat off," just because it had the rebel flag on it.
He removed his cap, but when he drove through the parking lot with his rebel flag, school officials suspended him for 3 days, claiming he was driving too fast. Dakota says he was not speeding, and the school's retaliating over his flag.
I get suspended over false pretenses? I don't see that as right. I'm from a biker family. That flag has shown up all around my life, and bikers took it in because it showed them freedom.
I spoke to senior officials at North Allegheny who tell me, yes, students are banned from displaying the Confederate flag. Why? Not because of the students who are wearing those flags, but because of the reaction of other students who they fear might disrupt the learning environment. Schools can limit student speech, but the disruption must be real and repeated, says Walczek.
Answer is not to censor that speech, but if somebody's got a problem with it, use it as a teaching moment.
Walczek says it's a slippery slope when government picks and chooses what's free speech.
Once the government can ban the Confederate flag, then what's next? Are they going to be able to ban Republican speech or Democratic speech? Are they going to be able to ban religious speech?
John Delano, KDKA TV News.
After the break, Tessa will have the latest on Mean Green sports.
We'll be right back.
I got this new family, and I don't know what it is about this one, but she can't seem to put down that toy. Oh, and she even talks to it. Who's she talking to? Her mom? She talks to her mom a lot.
Mean Green football played Iowa this past weekend. The Mean Green lost the game 62-16, but that did not stop them from scoring touchdowns. A trick play scored the only touchdown of the day when Chris Loving caught a 6-yard touchdown pass from Carlos Harris. Running back Jeffrey Wilson made a return from his injury, rushing 14 to 74 yards. The Mean Green hit the road next week to play Southern Miss at 6. On to volleyball. The Mean Green made a win on Friday playing UTIP in El Paso. Senior star Carnay Dillard had 25 kills in just 3 frames of her play. The Mean Green bought 6 of the last 8 points to win the frame and take UNT to the 5th sweep of 2015. The Mean Green will be playing home against Rice Friday at 7. That's all for sports. Back to Alex and Ashley.
Thanks, Tessa. Thank you for watching NTTV News at Noon.
Have a great afternoon, North Texas.